Ever wondered how the NBA's biggest players got their start? What was going through their minds when these massive clubs announced their pick on national television? NBA draft season is always filled with excitement for new talent and controversial picks, and has the media and the fans talking nonstop. We reviewed from the first to the last NBA draft, so you don't have to. Watch and learn the most interesting facts and highlights of it all. Buckle up and let's go. Hey, start with the right foot. Subscribe now to be on top of our videos. Don't miss a thing. Let's start before drafting was an NBA thing. In 1947, the first professional basketball draft process was held by the Basketball Association of America, aka the BAA, along with the National Basketball League, or the NBL. Both leagues aim to fairly organize and distribute new talent among the teams, while closely controlling player salaries and agreements. Signing players professionally at the start of the career provided an opportunity for both players and teams. Young players had the chance to play in the NBA with a salary, while teams were able to achieve more stability and secure better contracts compared to already established players. Before continuing, let's do a quick recap on what exactly the draft is. The dynamics of the draft were basically alternated teams choosing amateur U.S. college basketball players. The choosing order was given by how the team performed last season invertedly. The worst positions last season would be the first to pick players. This first basketball draft round ever kind of flopped. 4 out of the 10 first picks dropped their contracts before playing. The first pick, Clifton McNeely, ended up pursuing a high school coaching career in Texas. Apparently, he didn't have much interest in playing ball. So the team he was called for, the Pittsburgh Ironmen, folded up before the start of the 1947-98 season. The number 4 pick, Walt Dropo from Connecticut, excelled but in baseball, not basketball. He chose a baseball career and never played professional basketball. We can say that drafts started with the wrong foot, but 47 still featured some standout talents who were later honored by the Basketball Hall of Fame. The 1949 draft was held under the well-known NBA league name for the first time, thanks to the merger of the BAA and NBL leagues. In the first 20 years, the league was working hard to win over local fans. To do this, they introduced the territorial pick rule, allowing teams to grab popular players from nearby colleges. Before the draft, a team could give up its first-round pick to a select player from within 50 miles of their home arena. These territorial picks were chosen before the main draft, so the first non-territorial pick was still considered the first overall pick. In the 1965 NBA draft, which was the last one to use the rule, there was a record of 3 territorial picks. The drafting event started having more public attention and kept growing as another big phase of the season. And with all that attention, new changes generated more controversy than before. The early entry rule was implemented in 1971. Looking for to sign talents younger, the league allowed underclassmen and players who had not completed their college eligibility to declare for the draft. True NBA fans will know that 1984 draft season is recalled to be legendary to say the least. This class included Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, and John Stockton. These future Hall of Famers didn't just join the NBA, they transformed it, setting records and winning championships and forever changing the game of basketball. Also, true fans will remember this. In that year, the Portland Trail Blazers made a decision that would go down in history, choosing Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan with the second pick. At the time, it seemed like a logical choice to fill their need for a center, but it ended up being one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. While Bowie struggled with injuries, Jordan soared to become the greatest of all time, leaving Portland and its fans forever wondering what might it be. Around 1985, the word tanking began to sound on the hallways and dress rooms of NBA. That's why the NBA introduced the draft lottery in 1985 to address the growing issue of tanking, where teams deliberately lost games to secure a higher draft pick. Before the lottery, the worst teams were guaranteed the top picks, incentivizing this behavior. The lottery system aimed to discourage tanking by making the draft order less predictable. thus maintaining the competitive integrity of the league. This change was crucial in ensuring that all teams continued to strive for success throughout the season, rather than intentionally underperforming for future gain. In the 80s, the NBA began broadcasting its draft ceremony, transforming it into a highly anticipated event for basketball fans. Initially, the draft was a behind-the-scenes affair, but as the league's popularity grew, so did the interest in seeing how teams would shape their futures. The NBA capitalized on this by improving the production value of the draft each year, adding elements like live coverage, expert analysis, and player interviews. This approach not only engaged existing fans, but also attracted new audiences, turning the draft into a spectacle where the next generation of NBA stars was introduced to the world. Stop. Here's a friendly reminder. Subscribe now, enjoy now and later. Click below. The 1986 NBA draft had a tragic outcome. The Boston Celtics selected Len Bias with the second overall pick, and experts saw him as a potential rival to Michael Jordan, who was already making history in the NBA. People who had watched Len play had high expectations from him. Tragically, just 48 hours after being drafted and signing his contract, Len Bias died from a cocaine overdose. Jumping now to the 90s, the league began to expand by adding teams in Canada and even celebrating the 95 draft in Ontario, Canada. This draft was remembered by this new expansion, and Kevin Garnett, the 5th overall pick, who was drafted directly out of high school. Garnett made an immediate impact with the Minnesota Timberwolves, leading them to 8 consecutive playoff appearances. The new millennium came with new changes on the league, and the most talked about was the one and done and age limit rules. It required players to be at least 19 years old and 1 year removed from high school graduation to be eligible for the NBA draft. This means that many top prospects spend just 1 year playing college basketball before declaring for the draft. The rule was implemented to ensure that players were physically and mentally prepared for the rigors of professional basketball, as well as to give NBA teams a chance to evaluate their skills against high-level competition before drafting them. It's been a hot topic of debate, with critics arguing it disrupts the college game and denies players the opportunity to develop fully in college, while supporters see it as a pathway for talented young athletes to enter the NBA earlier. The NBA Draft Combine has been a significant addition to the league. It's an annual event where draft prospects display their skills and athleticism in front of NBA coaches, scouts, and executives. This event is pivotal for teams to assess players through physical measurements, strength and agility tests, and on-court drills. In recent years, the Combine has grown to encompass broader evaluations of players' abilities and potential, including interviews to gauge their personality, character, and basketball IQ. Basketball enthusiasts agree that this enhancement to the draft process has raised expectations for the selection season. As we reflect on the history and evolution of the NBA draft, it's clear that each year brings new stories, talents, and moments that captivate fans worldwide. Join us in celebrating the journey of basketball's brightest stars by liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more in-depth insights and updates on all things NBA. Don't miss out on the excitement. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.